Okay, so let's do a video where I talk all about the Scott GSR, or General Service Respirator. Now, this mask is probably used by more than just Britain now, but Scott basically designed this for the British Army when the S10 was being replaced. And as I've talked about many times before, I think there was a lot of problems with the procurement of this, in the sense that Britain had used Avon masks since World War II basically, or maybe even prior to World War II. I'm not sure who made all the masks for World War One. So Britain had been using Avon masks for around 60 years or so. And then all of a sudden the British government decides, for whatever reason, the best possible thing to do would be to buy an American mask that doesn't necessarily tick all the boxes that's needed. So, I'm not saying this to have a go at Scott, it's good for them that they sold the mask and everything, but you know, it does seem a bit dodgy not supporting your own country's industry, especially when they make a product that's actually, you know, more fit for service. So I don't really want to get further into that. I think Scott does make some stuff in the UK, so there are jobs here, and I'm not saying that Scott's a bad company, they do make many good masks. But many of you will know I'm not such a fan of this mask, so let's get out of its satchel and have a look at it. Before I go any further, I'll say this is an absolutely huge gas mask satchel. Now that's good if you wanted a big bag for storage. It's bad if you're carrying this on you with all your other equipment and it's so big. The S10 bag, for comparison, is probably sticks out a little bit more than this, but it's about half the width, so that's not good. So the bag is nice, it's got a button up and a Velcro thing, it's in multi-terrain pattern, and then you've got this you can pull down to expand the bag. Right, so let's get the mask out itself. So this is the Scott GSR. It is a dual filter mask, but you can run it with just one filter if you wanted to. It's got a panoramic sort of visor, and under this cover that doesn't quite fit on properly, it's got a speech diaphragm and the exhale valve. It's also got a water sort of drinking tube on it. And as you can see inside, it's got a fairly decent oral nasal cup, and it's got an inner mask as well. So you're probably thinking, wow, this looks great. Why do I complain about it so much? Right, there's a couple of things on this mask I find very weird and sort of slightly odd design choices, and there's a couple of things that give me concern if this is being issued to frontline soldiers. So let me speak about the thing that gives me concern first. Let's look around the outside, if the camera will focus on it, of the mask's sort of lenses. You can see that slightly dodgy glue and mould job done around there. Now, personally, I think that if you put too much pressure on this mask here, where these bits are, how well this will show up in the video I don't know, but I personally think that those bits are a weak point on the mask. I'm personally much more of a fan of crimping lenses to masks rather than gluing them on, because to me that seems like an accident waiting to happen. Now, yeah, I don't like the noise that rubber makes when I do that, but you can hopefully see the mould lines on there are not great. They are, like, especially that bit, it looks like if you had a cheap weld done on something, it's like that done on the rubber. And as you can see around the outside of the lenses, the glue is really obvious. If you look on the inside as well, the glue is really obvious in some places. I don't know how well that will show up on the camera, but you can see where the glue's smeared around. It's not been done with particularly good quality. And as I said about this bit, this cover doesn't really sit very well on it. So if I just take that off a moment, right, you can see where the exhale valve is, you can see where the speech diaphragm is, but as I was saying, this cover doesn't really seem to sit all that flush on it. When you clip it on, it still seems to rise off in places like here, so that's a thing that I think at some point will just fall off and get lost or snap off. Right, another thing I find very weird with this mask, and I have no idea what its purpose is. I can speculate, but I don't know. Right, if I fold the straps back, this might be difficult to show. Inside the chin section of the mask, if I can get at it, it's here. Maybe you'll be able to see it on the camera, maybe not. I don't think you're going to really be able to see that. There is a big plastic thing in here that's like an extra filter that's inside the mask. There you go. I have no idea what this is for, because you don't need a filter on the inside of the mask. The filter goes on the outside of the mask. They're here. So it's adding a load of weight to the mask, and it's really uncomfortable, because when you've got your chin in there, your chin sits against that piece of plastic, and that's not comfortable. So again, I have no idea why it's in there. Maybe there's a way of yanking it out. I think it maybe connects to the drinking system. But again, I have no idea why you would put a filter on the inside of the mask like that. It serves no purpose as far as I can tell. So, who knows? I really don't know what that's for. Maybe somebody can enlighten me. I know it's some kind of particulate filter, but why is it on the inside of a mask? That's what these filters are for. So yeah, the other weird thing of this is these are proprietary filters, and before I get started, I'm sure you know I hate proprietary filters. Everything should just be 40mm NATO now. So these filters have a weird connection system. Basically, you've got these things, they turn in, you twist it, and it makes an airtight. Once you have the filter off, basically, it makes that side airtight. So you can't breathe without a filter on in this mask. It locks it up, so it means when you change a filter, you can change them one at a time and you can't inhale gas. That's a good idea, but the weird thing is Scott's out these adapters to 40mm, right? However, there's actually a 40mm thing hidden under there, and with the right tools you can take these off and have this as a 40mm mask. So, sounds like a money earner for me. So, let's put these back on. Now, these filters are fine, I have no complaints with these actual filters. I will complain that when they're in the foil wrap bags, the filters aren't individually plugged, so basically what happens is if your bag gets a split in it, like my spare filters have, the filters expire in the bag because the filters aren't individually sealed. Right, I think it's about time to put the mask on. As I've said, it's not the most comfortable thing. Because it has an inner and outer mask size, this isn't the best possible fit for me, so I will say that off the top of the bat. The outside mask is fine, but the inner mask's a bit too big, so really I could do with a smaller inner mask, bigger outside mask, or the same size outside mask. So anyway, I'll put it in and put it on. I'll try and get my chin in the right place. I will say I do like the straps on this, they're very good rubber straps. Once I get it done up tight and, you know, comfortable. Okay, so it's pretty much airtight. As you can see, as I was saying, the inner mask seems a bit too big for me, but the outer mask's a fine size. It's got a fairly good head harness. As I said, these are comfortable rubber straps, easy to adjust when the mask is on, similar to the Israeli ones, maybe a bit better in quality. But one of the things I really don't like about this mask, and I'll just tilt the camera down slightly so you can see it a bit better, is just how bulky it is. I mean, look at the size of it. If I was to get any other modern 40mm mask, even if I was to put dual filters on, this thing is huge in comparison. And it's not actually that good for shouldering with a rifle, despite what you might think. This panoramic, lens isn't brilliant, as I've said. I don't trust the strength of it. Yeah, the voice diaphragm's okay, but it's not really better than any of the other gas masks on the market. I'd say it's not as good as the American mask, the big voice diaphragms like, the M40 or the Israeli M15, which has a similar sort of voice diaphragm setup. I've not ever tested a drinking tube with it, so I can't tell you how good that is. It's a similar connector to the S10, but I don't know if it's identical, I haven't checked that. Right, so we do that. Another thing is I can't quite work out where the straw is for the drinking system inside the mask. It's a bit odd. Anyway, let me show you why it's not great for, using with a rifle. Alright, so here we have an L1A1 SLR, the FN FAL. Let's flip up the rear sight. Those of you who complain this gun normally looks dirty, I've actually all polished it up now, so it's nice and clean and oiled. Right. That is really awkward for trying to look down the sight, because the filter on this side gets in the way of the gun. So to shoot this properly, you would need to take the filter off the right cheek, like a conventional gas mask. It's meant to be using a dual filter setup. Now, you might be able to hear this. There's a bit of a problem. Once you go to one filter, this mask actually has a bit more air resistance than a normal 40mm mask, which means that it then becomes harder to breathe. But at least I can shoulder a rifle with it now, right? That's how I go. That's still awkward. It's awkward because there's this bit sticking out here that doesn't need to be there. Except for Scott wants you to take these kind of filters and then buy a 40mm adapter, not just take these things off and clip them on as needed. So no, it's not very nice for shouldering a rifle, despite the panoramic lens. I know that modern rifles would have some sort of ACOG or SUSAT on or whatever, but in all honesty, when I've tried it with rifles with scopes on, I have the same sort of issue. It's no Soviet SHMS, that's for sure. So, what do I think of this mask? Not the rifle, I love the rifle.
I am sure you are aware from what I've said before, and every time I re-evaluate this mask, my opinion doesn't really change. Britain should have gone with the FM12. That is just a clear option. Or maybe the Avon M50 if they wanted a mask like that. America has very happily liked using the Avon M50 and they keep buying more and more of them. But I think this thing was a cheaper option, maybe coupled with a bribe, and now Britain's got a mask that's not really fit for service.
So there you go. My opinion hasn't really changed on the Scott GSR when reanalysing it. There's just so many little things with this mask that I don't like. Oh, not to mention the fact it's really heavy for a gas mask. You know, this is like original M17 kind of weight, I guess. Again, it seems to almost be going back to the cheek filter idea, doesn't it? Like, we'll have filters on the cheeks. I mean, I know normal gas masks do that, but this is at least the best way of doing a cheek filter, where it's on the outside. But these could, you know, they could minimise the size of these filters quite easily, I think. So there you go. There's the Scott GSR. On re-evaluation, I still think it is a crap, oversized mask. It's got some innovative features, but at the same time, lots of things with it strike me as being put poorly together. It's not good for, you know, shouldering of a rifle, which should be something that gas masks should have down to a T now. The Soviets managed it in the 70s, designing gas masks for use of rifle optics, but apparently, you know, the West hasn't got as good as that yet, or we don't want to do that. So, from what I've read online about this on forums where soldiers actually talk about them, it seems regular soldiers don't like them, but the officers or the higher up brass think they're great. Which might say something about the thing, you know, mask. As again, because I'm not in the army, I don't want to talk about the practical uses of this. I could be totally wrong. But from what I understand, everybody liked the S10 who had been previously issued with one, because the S10 was much lighter, it had a smaller sack, not something this big, and, you know, it was convenient to carry an S10 with spare filters with you. It didn't weigh a ton like this thing does, and, you know, it was just a convenient all-round good mask. So Britain could have kept the S10, just put a new order in with Avon for more S10s, or Britain could have gone with the FM12, which is like an improved S10, or if they really wanted to, they could have ordered some M50s and had like the better Avon version of this mask, which is lighter, has a better visor, smaller filters that are actually a bit more compact, but instead they went for the Scott GSR. As I said, I don't have really anything against Scott personally, nothing like that. You know, because Scott has made some really nice masks like the M95, and I'm sure they've done some really good industrial masks I've seen, but not, you know, personally used. But this thing, yeah, it looks space age and futuristic, but it is heavy, clunky, bulky, and it has, you know, yeah, it will protect you from chemical weapons, but again, I worry a lot about the sort of gluing and the rubber moulding around there. I think, you know, some nasty sort of blister agent or acidic gas hits that, the glue is going to melt, which seems quite fragile as it is. And, I mean, it has got that kind of flexy plastic, which is good, but, you know, other than that, there's not much great I can say about it, really. So there you go, that's all about the Scott GSR. Personally, unless you pick one up cheap, I would not recommend this, at least not for a, you know, actual mask to protect yourself with.